Welcome, everyone. Today, we are pleased to have Kyle Kemper here with us. He's the half-brother of Canadian's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. We ourselves are just back from British Columbia, so I have lots of interesting observations about the Canadians and the Canadian system. So this is a perfect day to have this conversation. And tomorrow, don't forget, we've got Salty Cracker making his way back here at noon. It's an earlier show. I want to read you something that Kyle said to the Toronto Sun. He says of his brother, his half-brother, he disagrees with him. Technologist strongly disagrees with him on major issues, telling the Sun, people recognize that fear has been weaponized against them as a result of a coordinated global effort. To Justin, I have one simple message. Go talk with people. Engage versus enrage. I like that. We'll hear more from Kyle Kemper right after this.
Our laws, as it pertains to substances, are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say.
Summer is right around the corner, and unfortunately, so are those visible dark spots, sunspots, other blemishes that the sun leaves behind. Until now, the deep correcting serum from our friends at Genucel visibly fades away dark marks, sunspots, scars, and other signs of discoloration all over your skin. You'd be amazed at how quickly you'll see results. Now you can enjoy your summer, sun, beach, barbecues without the annoying spots. And as always, Genucel guarantees you'll see the results or your money back, no questions asked. Right now, you can save over 50% off Susan's skincare essentials at Genucel.com/Drew, plus save an extra 25% automatically applied at checkout for world-class skincare that works.
I know I'm a snob about the products I use on my face. Everybody knows it. Every time I go to the dermatologist's office, they're just rows and rows of different creams. And then when I get to the counter, they're overpriced. All kinds of products that you can all find at Genucel.com.
Order right now and you get the Genucel Ultra Retinol for a hydrating, moisturizing effect on the delicate skin during the harsh summer months. Visit Genucel.com/Drew now and get free shipping. That is Genucel.com/Drew, GENUCEL.com/DREW. Of course, I'm a fan of the healthy aging supplement True Niagen. I've been taking it almost for a decade myself. This supplement boosts NAD, which your cells need to survive properly metabolically, and it goes down as we age. It does so with a nutrient called nicotinamide riboside, or NR, specifically patented form of NR called Niagen. It's the most efficient and trusted NAD booster. NAD can also play a role in reproductive health. Boosting NAD is recommended with prenatal vitamins for women over 30 looking to start a family. Here's Dr. Amy, also known as the Egg Whisperer, a highly influential specialist in this area.
That was when I said, this is amazing. I need every single person going through fertility to take it. I not only take it myself, my patients have shared stories. They took it and then they got pregnant naturally. And that's really my goal, is I want people to empower themselves with the tools so that they can get pregnant without my help.
True Niagen is an amazing NAD booster. You're going to want to add it to your reproductive health arsenal. And of course, it's in our family of Dr. Drew sponsors. Go to drdrew.com/True Niagen for 20% off your order. That is drdrew.com/True Niagen. Enter Dr. Drew at checkout for 20% off. Indeed, we're going to have Kyle in here in just a second. Yeah, it was very interesting going to Canada. On one hand, I thought to myself, this is a glorious country. This is sort of incredible, the vastness of this country. And then I had some other thoughts where I ended up thinking, boy, I'm grateful to be in this particular country. So we'll get to that in just a second. But first, if you owe back taxes, speaking of this country, pandemic relief is over, and also along with hiring thousands of new agents and field officers, the IRS has kicked off 2024 by sending over 5 million pay-up letters to those who have unfiled tax returns or balances owed. Don't waive your rights and don't speak with them on your own. They are not your friends. Tax Network USA is a trusted tax relief firm that has saved over $1 billion in back taxes for their clients, and they can help you secure the best deal possible. Whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, they can help you, whether it's business or personal taxes. Even if you have the means to pay or you are on a fixed income, they can help finally resolve your tax burden once and for all. Call 1-800-245-6000 for a private free consultation. Visit drdrew.com slash TNUSA. That's DRDRAW slash TNUSA. Check that out. Susan is running to her station.
We get those forms all the time, and they're never real. So it's probably good to have somebody on your side.
Listen, when I see that stuff down in the kitchen, I start fantasizing about let's get a hold of these guys and let's see what they can do. So I think we will be a customer. That's what I predict. All right. I want to repeat, Kyle Kemper is a technologist and author. He's the half-brother of Justin Trudeau, of course, the Prime Minister of Canada. For over a year, Kyle and his wife drove a Kennedy 24 bus across the United States. I have dutifully brought, he'll appreciate, if you can get focus on this. I'm going to see if it's quite, let me see if I go back here. There we go. It's in focus now. My Kennedy cup. I have a lot of Kennedy swag here. Kennedy 24 bus across the U.S. promoting Robert F. Kennedy Jr. presidential campaign. You can follow Kyle on X at Kyle, K-Y-L-E, Kemper, K-E-M-P-E-R. Also, I believe he wants you to check out his Substack. Caleb, I don't know if I have the Substack.
They can find it on his website.
Okay, you can find it on his website, which I assume is kylekemper.com. I don't have that also. Is that true? Can somebody help me with that? Well, you know can help me with that is Kyle Kemper. Yeah. So please welcome Kyle Kemper to the show. Hey, my friend, thank you for coming. There, those are cool. Is mine okay? Do I meet criteria here? We got both sides.
That's a pretty
of this
good one. I think I like that one. I like all these ones too. Anyways,
all right.
Kennedy swag's good time.
And where can people find your Substack?
So I don't have a Substack. I'm on X at Kyle Kemper, and we're on Instagram at the Kennedy 24 bus. Kennedy 24 bus. And if you want to support the tour, it's patreon.com/Kennedy bus.
And are you talking to us from the Kennedy bus?
I'm talking to you from the Kennedy bus in Valdosta, Georgia, and we're on our way to Atlanta to go bring the Kennedy vibration to the CNN Fortress of Darkness, and it's gonna be a great time.
How did you get involved in Bobby Kennedy's campaign? What happened? What's that evolution like?
So Bobby was such an amazing voice and showed so much courage, like standing up and speaking truthfully during the whole COVID-19 scenario. I'm just going to call it the scenario for the purposes of this. We
call it the debacle here, just so you know.
I think Mickey Willis did a good job with the Plandemic too, with his movies there. I think that one also works, but it's a little bit triggering. I'll just call it the scenario for now. It's been 201 scenario in action.
Fair enough.
So I saw Bobby. I watched a video of him last February, like before he announced, and I was like, my goodness, this man is actually qualified to become president. At which point I made a tweet about that. And then I was at the Independent National Convention in Austin, Texas. And it was there that Bobby signaled that he was going to be running for president. And, we've just been talking all about the independence movement in America for 3 days with leaders from politics, from nonprofits, and from the crypto industry. And I'm an 11-year veteran, I guess you could say, of the Bitcoin blockchain space. So it was wonderful to see all this convergence. And then once Bobby announced that, I looked to one of the people there and was like, we've got to do this. And this is a golden opportunity. And I had that feeling right in my gut. You sometimes get that feeling, and it felt like the Ron Paul kind of movement from back in the day. But this time it was, Bobby the Remedy Kennedy. And I basically decided to kind of go all in. I made a meme, and then I was at UCLA giving a fundraising talk, and I stepped outside for a moment, and someone joined me, and I showed them the meme. They're like, "Ha ha ha! This is great. I'm going to send this to Bobby and Amaryllis." So his son and his daughter-in-law. And I ended up going and meeting them the next day. And Bobby 3 is just an amazing human, and he's absolutely all in. And at that point, I was like, I'm all in on this. And then at the Bitcoin conference in Miami, we took my bus, which was the blockchain across America, to raise awareness for blockchain technology and the homeless epidemic in America. And we transformed it into the Kennedy Across America bus and had these murals painted on it. And then, it's been an evolving kind of art car since then. And we've driven all over the country. It's been over a year now. And we're just commencing a 30-day tour that is going to be something else. So that's the story. And I've worked with the campaign. I'm no longer kind of working inside the campaign. I've worked alongside a lot of the grassroots movement, a lot of leaders in this space. And I just love what's going on, in this whole space. And unlike the other parties, like, this is new. This is like a startup. It's growing. It's not perfect. There's a lot of growing pains, but trying to figure it out. But that's the nature of this game. So, and I'm really grateful to be on your show here with you, Drew. And thank you to Caleb and Susan and all your amazing sponsors for making this possible.
Well, thanks.
You're very, very fine. Very, very, very kind, Kyle. I appreciate that. And
Thank you for that.
And you're much like so many of the other people and the leaders in his campaign that I have met, which are extraordinary people. And I was talking to one of them recently, and I'm laughing at myself, I guess. And he's a very smart man. And I was saying, well, this is great the way this is growing, as you said. I get the same feel for what you're talking about. And I said, does he imagine getting a position in somebody's government, or does he want to build towards 28? And this guy looks at me and goes, no, we're going to be president in 24. And I thought, oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So there is still great enthusiasm and optimism amongst his team, which I love to see. I absolutely love to see that. So congratulations on all of this. Let's dial back and talk about this epidemic of fear, if you want to call it, whatever the global strategy of fear, which I have identified also, and I've been gravely concerned about it. I actually went up to British Columbia this week, and that's what I talked about. That's actually what I was speaking on, was this tendency to get the mob going and the desire to manipulate, and where that's coming from and why we're prone to this and why mass formation is such a thing. Before we dig into that, talk to me about, I've never heard anybody, or at least ask you, or maybe you've done it, but I've just never seen it. Lay out your family history and your history with and in Canada. So you guys are half brothers, you and Justin, right? How did that all work? And were you in Canada for a while? And tell me that history, if you don't mind.
So I'm a very proud Canadian. I grew up in Ottawa. My mother is Margaret Sinclair, who married Pierre Trudeau. And then after Pierre Trudeau married my father, Freed Kemper. Justin, Sasha, and Michelle are my 3 older brothers, born to Pierre. Justin's 14, Sasha's 12, and Michelle is 10. He's passed in an avalanche back in 1998, a very tragic incident. Come to peace with that. The mother Gaia, took him in and never returned him. He was never found. It was quite the situation, and he was so pure. He's with us. He's a guide, in my opinion. Watching over, and I'm very grateful to have him watching. And so, I grew up in Ottawa. I went to university in Dalhousie University. I studied business. My father was in real estate and restaurants. I've always had an inkling for entrepreneurship. And, after university, I worked in venture capital and then software development and startups. That took me to California for the first times, and I was very, very inspired by going to California. I found that in California, there was this attitude of yes, as opposed to in Canada, there was this, in Ottawa specifically, well, in Canada in general too, there was this attitude of no. So if you came up with an idea in California, it'd be like, yes, like here's how we can make it happen. And in Ottawa or Canada, it would be like, no, you can't do that because of this, or no, you can't do that because of this. And it's just kind of like a defeatist. It's kind of wasn't a great vibration. So I really enjoyed that.
I get that. I want to dig into that a little bit because, like I said, we were just up in British Columbia this last weekend, and it's different. It is different up there. Now, were you raised with Justin? Were you around each other growing up, or did you just sort of stay like distant family members?
I spent a lot of time with Justin. He was my older brother. He taught me how to snowboard. With him and Sasha, we would go on, especially over the years we got older too. I'd do a lot of like canoe tripping and awesome experiences. And growing up too, I look up to my older brother, and his father was also quite old. So Pierre was over 50 when he met my mother, who was like 25, at the time. And then they had 3 children. So, my father was kind of a father to Justin and Sasha and Michelle. And we had our cottage outside of Ottawa. We'd be doing all sorts of fun activities. And and Pierre was an amazing, man in his own right as well. I didn't know him that well. I was kind of young. He passed in 2001. So
the reason I asked that question is I'm wondering if you have any insight. We're going to now go to this conversation about fear. What Justin imagined he's doing when he leaps to these interventions, or at least he is convinced to do so, that are so, in my mind, egregious overreach of what governments are supposed to be, and really are reminiscent of times gone by. I heard somebody sort of articulate, it was actually Mark Chankisi. He goes, look, when presented with the choice, do I jump in and lock everybody, to use my authoritarian power versus start to listen to all points of view to try to protect civil liberties and try to make some sort of intermediate interventions in this horrible epidemic that are as maximally beneficial with minimally adverse effect. Everyone leapt to this horrible thing, which was use fear, create panic, and lock it down. What do you imagine he was thinking when he did all that? He wasn't alone, of course, but what do you think he was thinking?
I mean, I think it's like back to this mass formation kind of concept, and all the people around him whispering into his ears are all like of that same vibration of lock it down. Like, we know what's best for society. Taking the general, it's this kind of this, global corporatocracy that has this vision for how things should be. And Justin represents one of the spokespeople for it. And unfortunately, I don't feel like he is the one who is actively making decisions. And I think he signed up for the first many years of prime ministerdom. And then things took a twist with the whole COVID scenario being unleashed, at which point he needed to play his role as an agent of the Matrix.
And so
for us to give him all this power, and I think that he is like, the root cause, or making these decisions, or writing these tweets, or I just think, it's not what's going on. And
he has been sort of co-opted by his infrastructure or something. That their mass formation became his mass formation,
Yep.
which is a reasonable thing. But it as somebody pointed out to me who was leaving the previous administration in Washington and talking to some of the people coming into the Biden administration, and it makes me wonder about your half brother's administration as well. She said they sure do like to govern. They sure do like to do stuff to the people. You know what I mean? It's that there's that tendency to want to intervene and do stuff as opposed to, hey, just create the infrastructure and let people live. Do you agree with that?
I totally agree with that. And it's almost like they want to create this bilateral relationship between people and government, as opposed to, just being servants for the people and enabling strong, resilient community and prosperity. Instead, it's very much a domination strategy and I would say spirit suppression strategy. And back to the original topic where we were going down, which was, fear as a mechanism for control, keeps people at a very low vibration of safety and security, like Maslow's hierarchy, safety and security. If you're always worried about, how you're going to put food on your table or a house over your head or just shelter, you're not able to move up the levels into a more awakened, positive spiritual state where we can start collaborating and radically collaborating towards solving the big problems and shifting from honestly this era of dominance and like strict hierarchy to this decentralized value
let's hang
creation,
up a second,
prosperity
because
economy.
isn't that interesting that your instinct that there should be less hierarchy is solved by putting the power out into the closest as you possibly can to the people. For instance, let local officials make decisions for government, for the trash collection or whatever. Let doctors make decisions for their patients. I feel like the party that, say, your brother would represent also would like to see hierarchy less a part of the world we live in, but they want to do it by invoking a hierarchy from on high, which I find so odd.
Yeah, and then and they like their uprisings, but when they control the uprisings, like when the truckers came to Ottawa, oh no, like that one we're not going to engage with. That one we're going to enrage. We're not going to be taking big photo ops to like kneel like they did with BLM and like Saint George Floyd. Like no. Instead, they invoked Nazi imagery and staged a whole bunch of scenes that then they projected into the mainstream to create this duality of worldviews for many Canadians and many people of the world. And that was, on one side, there were these like far-right Nazis, like white supremacists. And then on the other side, the people who were actually there, you're seeing, wow, it's like truckers and people supporting truckers coming together to basically have Burning Man in Ottawa, where for 21 days, they danced, they celebrated, they came together, they participated, they were immediate, they left no trace, things were decommodified, and there was radical self-expression and radical inclusion, and it was all on full display. It was really, really powerful. And it seemed like it was going to get to the point where it was going to peacefully kind of dissolve, but when you see that, then it's like, no. Let's bring in the stormtroopers. Let's clear this. Let's get these terrifying images of a horse trampling people. Like, what is going on here, folks? Anyways, I digress. But at the core, they can't engage. They can't engage. They need to enrage, because you cannot engage when you're defending a lie. And that when you're defending a myth, especially a very large myth, like the official COVID narrative, or other narratives which don't stand up to scrutiny. Instead, you have to just attack and smear any, critics and try and, not have people even listen to them, like try and write them off, use these monikers and labels to just try and turn people off. Like I remember when Mickey Willis came out with Plandemic 2 Indoctrination, plandemicseries.com, if you haven't seen it. That movie, they tried so hard to make sure people didn't even press play. It's like, don't watch this, not worth your time. It's riddled with this, that, and the other. And it turned out it was like so informative, going over the nature of how the whole thing was scripted and how, basically with Event 201, they war gamed and prepared from a corporatocracy point of view, how they would deal with all their nations of the world, and how they would use fear of the virus towards stoking hope for an experimental vaccine that would come to the rescue, as we've seen in so many movies like Contagion and Outbreak and blah, 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 whatever, Hollywood.
I always would sort of tell people to pay attention to the fact that, your safety, we're going to keep you safe is sort of how they are wielding their sword. And I always remind people that Robespierre, his committee, the committee that replaced the first committee, Robespierre's committee, I forget what the first one was called, but Robespierre and his committee were the ones that carried out the terror. They were the ones that brought out the guillotines and killed thousands of people. And that committee was called the Committee for Public Safety. I remind people of this over and over again. This issue of centralized authority started with the Jacobins. They realized how to do it back in 1789 or 1790 by that point, and that was safety and terror. Those were the things that they used. And then I have a quote from Benjamin Constant, who was a mid-18th century philosopher. And he said, he goes, what are you ready to spare? They will say to us, in what end is the aim of your efforts, meaning the government? The motive for your labors, the object of all your hopes, is it not happiness? We'll leave the happiness to us, and we shall give it to you. That's what the government was doing in 1850. No, sirs, we must not leave it to them. No matter how touching such a tender commitment may be, let us ask the authorities to keep within their limits. Let them confine themselves to being just. We shall assume the responsibility of being happy for ourselves. So when you start hearing them talk about happiness, the cycle is complete, because they've run the safety cycle hard. They've done as far as they can with that. So I'm expecting next to hear about happiness.
I mean, it's better than the safety angle. I agree. It's better than the safety angle. It's like, I think we're a little bit tired
more
of
appealing.
Like this stay safe.
So
when
funny.
someone says to me, stay safe, or even like safe travels. I mean, I get on the road, but it's like, I just say happy travels to people. Happy.
Yes.
Like, let's try and recognize there's risk in this world. And it's okay. And I remember.
Not only is it okay,
father of 6 children. It's natural.
Not only is that's risky too. That's having 6 kids. But not only is risk okay, it's how we ascend to something better. If we're trying to ascend to anything other than routine, and routine's fine if that's what you want. But if you want to ascend to something better, there's going to be risk. There's always going to be risk of all types: financial risk, physical risk. You're just driving on the highway with the bus. It's risky. There's risk, and risk is good. Risk is good. Sometimes it doesn't go well, and people have different risk tolerances, and we got to give them that. But risk is not a bad thing. It's not an evil thing. I'm going to hold you. You want to respond to that, and then I got to take a little break. And when we come back, go ahead.
So there's a difference between like living in a state of fear and being conscious of danger. Like, be aware of danger and take action to protect yourself against danger. But being in just a state of fear that anything could go wrong, like,
Yes.
everything could end in a moment. Like, no, just be aware of danger and protect yourself against danger. And that was like, this idea that, oh man, they're coming for our bloodstreams. Be aware.
Yeah.
And so that was like,
let me frame it for you. Kyle, let me frame it for you, because Aristotle addressed this very thing, right? He was all about the golden mean, getting the balance right. And he said when it came to risk-taking, you don't want to be heedless. Heedlessness is not proper risk-taking, and that's what you're saying. Risk is a balanced risk-reward consideration in every move. But the risk should not be zero if you want to ascend to something a little more productive or more evolved for the human spirit. That's all. It's not zero. There's rarely zero risk in things, even if it's just going to school. I mean, you're dedicating your time. There's always risk. Okay, so when we get back, I want to talk about a little bit about your Canadian. Oh, look, there's a man taking risk right there. That's what I want to talk about when we get back. I want to talk more about the campaign and your role in it. And I also want to talk about your compatriots in Canada and some of the things I observed, at least in British Columbia. It was at once glorious and disturbing. So I had mixed feelings, as they say. So we'll get to it. We'll be right back. Joint muscle pains are exhausting and frustrating, but I've got a over-the-counter medication I want to introduce you to that provides great relief using the power of, check it out, chili peppers. Capsidin is made with a proprietary formula that contains no non-steroidal anti-inflammatory agents, no opioids, no anesthetic or steroid, nothing, no chance for addiction, no side effects, no chance it's going to interact with other medication you might be taking. Capsidin contains capsaicin, which is the substance in chili peppers that burns your tongue. That gives you that burny feeling. And of course, I've recommended capsaicin creams to patients over the years, but other capsaicin creams burn your skin. That's what makes capsidin so unique. In clinical trials, capsidin has actually been demonstrated not to burn.
I've been using capsidin to relieve my pain in my hands and my wrist from carpal tunnel syndrome and arthritis. The results have been amazing. I use it every day during my show, and I highly recommend it.
Get the pain relief you need from various sources, even backache, sprains, bruises even. Order now at capsidin.com/Drew to get a 15% discount plus free shipping. That is CAPSADYN, capsidin.com/DREW. There are 4 distinct and outstanding medical kits from the Wellness Company: a first aid kit, a travel emergency kit. I was very instrumental in developing that one. I love it. A COVID emergency kit, but let's unpack their medical emergency kit, the one that gives you immediate access to treatment for a variety of medical conditions. Here's the kit: pneumonia, upper respiratory infections, skin infections, gastrointestinal infections. You'll have on-hand medication that will even serve as immediate prophylaxis against a sexually transmitted infection, rapid intervention for Lyme and other tick-borne illnesses. Of course, we've added Tamiflu to our kits in case the avian flu should become human-to-human transmissible. Then we know something is up and we want to be ready. And look, we want to be covered for bioterrorism even. And of course, the Nobel Prize-winning antiparasitic ivermectin, and a how-to guide and a virtual consultant. Get access to these prescription meds by going to drdrew.com/TWC to save 15% off. That is $30 off the medical emergency kit. drdrew.com/TWC for 15% off the kit and any of their kits or their supplements. Do it now. drdrew.com/TWC.
I ain't Dr. Drew.
Dr. Drew.
You want to spend the whole session talking about Dr. Drew?
There you go. Even you call him Dr. Drew.
My buddy Jim Jeffries spent the weekend with the TWC guys. We are planning some very interesting things for you, so stand by. There's a lot coming your way from that organization. We actually spent time with Peter McCullough and his wife. It was really fascinating to hear some of his thoughts. Also, Susan used the capsidin on her knee. She had some inflammation there for like a week, and this morning woke up after the capsidin last night and was resolved. So Also want to remind people about Safe Sleeve, which is what I use on my phone, founded by two California engineering grads who wanted to educate the public about EMF radiation exposure risks. Dozens of studies have shown that EMF radiation can be harmful, especially when it's coming from devices that are always close to you in your head, like your phone. This is why Safe Sleeve is designed to give you peace of mind, knowing you and your devices are protected by lab-tested shielding technology that can block over 99% of RF and 92% of ELF radiation. Their cases also provide military-grade drop protection and come in a variety of styles and colors that include a built-in wallet with RFID protection and RFID protection. I have one on my phone, and it's not just for your phone. Safe Sleeve offers anti-radiation products for your iPad, laptops, even a new RF blocking blanket. Check them out now and use the promo code Dr. Drew for 10% off. Just go to drdrew.com/SafeSleeve and use promo code Dr. Drew. That is DRDRW.com/SafeSleeve. Safe Sleeve.
I need one for my computer. I always have it on my lap in bed.
Let's get one. I mean, this stuff, I've been thinking about this for a while. I've been persuaded there's something going on. The military are very serious about it. And I figure if they're serious about it, we ought to be serious about it.
But I'm not going to lie. I put the capsidin on my knee. For a week, I've had inflammation. My legs were really stiff. And I put it on my knee last night. I woke up and it was so much better. I was so happy. So it does work. It's working on my carpal tunnel as well.
You got to get your camera on over there, Susan.
I know. I didn't have time today.
All right, so let's bring Kyle Kemper back, Justin Trudeau's half-brother. Justin, Kyle, thank you for being here today, and thank you for what you're doing for the Kennedy campaign. So, I'm reading the restream while we were on the break there, and a lot of people want to see you talk to Jordan Peterson. I don't know if that's in the book, if that's planned at all. That would be interesting. And Jordan is an outspoken critic of your half-brother, and particularly as it pertains to, I would say, restrictions on speech and civil liberties. Does Jordan Peterson have a point?
I would love to talk to Jordan. I saw Jordan speak in Tampa Bay, and he invited me to come see him afterwards. And I thought I was just going to be part of like the VIP kind of like, show up in the line, get a photo with him. But no, he just like brought me right back, and there was him and his wife, and I got to spend some time with him. I'm a huge fan of Jordan and his courage and his journey as well. It's amazing how many of the people today have, like, some of our leaders have all these kind of, different hero journeys of addiction or serious low points. It's like, with Bobby, for example, with Jordan, with Russell Brand, like, there's darkness, but then coming out of it, like sometimes you have to lose yourself or go through that almost that death rebirth experience in order to become awakened, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I think that is true. And when we were in Canada, one of the questions that was asked of our panel was essentially sort of, how do you find courage to stand up at this present time? And the one thing I said was, look, once you decide what's right, what is the right thing, you can't help but stand up. You can't help it. It doesn't feel like courage. It feels like just doing what's right for what's right. And I'm wondering how you see that now. What is it? Obviously something has caught you. What is it that you're saying that needs to happen?
Well, speaking your truths and right action, taking whatever you feel right, like understand, your words are really important, and you can shield yourself or use kind of cowarding words, or you can speak openly and honestly and truthfully. And if you take right action and you won't have any regrets. There's like the 4 agreements, the first is be impeccable with your words. And so be impeccable with your words and understand that the words of others can be, good or bad too. So don't make too many assumptions based on the words of others, and don't take the words of others personally towards yourself. because people can blow you up. They can also try and tear you down, and just, always do your best at the end of the day, and living by those and acting by those 4 agreements, as what's his name? Michael Ruiz, I think was the author's name. He said that's how, you kind of unlock the God within you. Yeah.
And I'm guessing Bobby is part of that recognition. Tell me about that and what you're thinking about the campaign these days.
Yeah, I mean, Bobby's got so much courage, and we're at this time right now where with these 2 other candidates that are so polarizing and so dividing, it's like, it's this.
But you
notion
use
of
the word
divide
courage
and
again,
conquer.
and he uses that word to describe other people, not himself. He described me as courageous, and that was so confusing to me when he said that. I was like, courage? To have a conversation with a lawyer, an environmental lawyer, it takes courage. It takes courage to get up, and it takes courage to dedicate the time and energy that he's dedicated to this project. But my bet is he doesn't feel that it takes courage. He's just doing what he has to do given the current moment. Thank you all for waiting. Let's get Kyle Kemper back in here. We just had a technical meltdown. I don't know quite what it was, but thank you guys. Thanks, Tom Cigar, for keeping everybody entertained on the restream. There you are. So all
right.
Let me switch gears about something a little different, which is Canadians. I hadn't been in Victoria, British Columbia since about 1969. And it's quite different now. And British Columbians are very nice. People are extremely, extremely nice. They don't quite have, much like Europeans, service isn't quite a thing yet. I mean, they try, they really do, but they're not sort of service oriented. And there's like a pace to everything where no one steps out of line. Everyone walks at the same pace. Everyone kind of has the same demeanor. Everyone kind of has the same quality in terms of their emotional sort of attunement. Unless, but right underneath this was this kind of seething anger that I evoked a couple of times. And I wondered what that is. Are we into something good there? When people have this it's like a passive aggression that's just right there. They're at once delightful and they want to be liked, and they're lovely, but there's an aggression right behind it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I feel you. I think I sense that. I think it's like a factor of going along. It's like going along, taking the punches,
right.
taking the punches
going
until
along.
you just want to snap.
That's what I said. Yeah, I said is going along to get along. Everyone's just going along and being happy. But I feel like some of it is, I wonder if some of it is the way the government conducts itself. That it's sort of, over involved and there's too much, I don't know, collectivization or something where people sort of feel like to be an individual, sort of stand out in any way is a threat. Let me tell you, Susan hates this when I tell this story, but let me tell you where this sort of came out the most for me. I worked out in a gym a couple of days, and the gym etiquette reflected this, which was once somebody used a piece of equipment, that was their equipment. That's mine. And it was a crowded gym. And I not really understanding this sort of thing that was going on, like an older woman was working on just a simple cable, rope pull. And she walked away from her equipment and left her stuff nearby, but she was quite a distance from it. So I slipped in, didn't change the weight, didn't move anything, just want to do a set. She came running over. That's mine. I thought, yeah. I'm going to kind of work in here. No problem. Take me 2 seconds. No, but it's mine. Started screaming at me. And I was like, oh shit, what have I triggered here? And that's the kind of thing that is right underneath, which like we're sharing everything
Stinky American.
Until I decide something is mine, and then you better sure as hell stay away from it. So there's some weird psychology I couldn't quite get my head around, but maybe you can help me with this.
I don't think I can really help you with that, but that is, an
I know. He
interesting
sounds like an old
observation.
guy.
I sound like an old guy.
I'm not a gym
I am.
guy. I don't understand gym etiquette. I've been to a gym maybe like 5 times in my life. The world
She was
is my
giving
gym.
me a stink eye too, though.
Well,
so don't
gym
feel
is
bad.
usually you share and you kind of you stay out of the way of people using heavier equipment, but you find ways to share and use and move in and out of each other's way, and this gets crowded. You just share
when
equipment.
we're in it
I don't
together
even like
too,
doing
it's
it.
like let's go. You want to have a family? Like we're here getting healthy, guys, and good job.
Yes.
Let's have some positive feedback cycles.
job.
But
I don't even want to share with
that's
him.
my machine. So
Yeah.
It's personal space.
So, do you think that and the other thing, there were some elections up there and too as well, and there appeared to be some change in the electorate a little bit, not massive, not like what's happening in France or Italy or Argentina, but some people speaking up, going, "We're tired of this. We're tired of the fear campaigns. We're tired of the overreach." Are you seeing that? And does your brother know that? Does he talk about that?
Something massive just happened 2 nights ago in Toronto. So there was a special election, and it was a riding, or a district, as the Americans would say, a riding in Canada called St. Paul, which is a Toronto riding that's been held by the Liberals for 25 elections straight, I believe. And it was won by the Conservatives. So that is like a very telling sign. And, I heard a rumor from somebody that, that Justin was resigning on Sunday, just something that I saw. I have no validation or verification.
Resigning? Now, wait a minute. Resigning the way Macron resigned? Like Macron that cancels the government? Is it that kind of thing? Does Canada run that way?
Yeah. It's you can, as a leader of the party, he can, if permitted, decide,
Call for elections, right?
This is the moment to, be done. Like, we just lost one of our Liberal stronghold seats in this special election. That's a sign of this. The yarn can be spun to say, okay, this is the moment when he could, move, and then it will be ultimately the party that decides this, because it is of the party, by the party, for the party, both in America and in Canada, how the system works. It is not of the people, by the people, for the people. And that is what I want to focus, my energies on, is how do we restore the republic, restore our democracy, restore our voice in shaping the world that we want, to enable people to be civically engaged, as opposed to showing up to a crooked election every 4 years, making a single mark on a ballot and patting ourselves on the back, when nothing changes.
Right. And how to emphasize protecting our freedoms and our civil liberties and restoring the job of elected officials to the job of representing the electorate, not the job of trying to control a bureaucracy or of telling electorates how to behave or how they ought to behave or how they ought to live their lives. That's the most bizarre thing in the world to me, that people are interested in. Forget doing that they're even interested in that is bizarre to me. And that people would want that is also very bizarre. Now, I talked to a Canadian psychologist who essentially identified external locus of control as a psychological phenomenon. She wrote a book about Trump derangement, and she was writing about how that's sort of part of the setup for Trump derangement. But that external locus of control, people, when they feel like things are done for them or to them, they don't have an internal locus of control. They kind of like it when they're taken care of by an authority. So I understand, I guess, why somebody would like it. Why somebody would want to do that to anybody is what's mysterious to me.
Well, I think, when you exist in a domination structure, you want to be the dominator, and when you get a pat on the back from, the government or whoever is really shaping your worldview as a servant to the master, the servant wants to become the master. And so that's the
Yeah.
danger. That's what we have to be really careful about with shifting systems, is that we're just not replacing one master with another. And
Right.
back
That's right.
to the point of the democracy and like representatives. The reason why we had representatives was in our initial government constructs was because there was no way to carry a message from California to Washington, D.C. quickly. The Canadian, which is the Westminster system of government, and the U.S. System of government were initiated in a time when electricity didn't exist and the telegraph didn't exist,
Right.
much less
Right.
FaceTime or Zoom. And so the best solution at the time was to have one person represent your geographical region by going to Washington,
Yeah.
D.C. It doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense anymore. It's time for an upgrade to the system. And we're not going to be able to fix this system by fighting it. It's time to start looking at new models that once adopted will just make this existing one obsolete, as Bucky Fuller said.
But Kyle, I understand what you're saying, but the Greeks had a form of direct democracy, and many political
So did the
philosophers
Swiss.
through history. Well, they do have a direct democracy, right? And that is one place where it is working. So you think the Swiss system is the way to go?
I mean, I think we should
Okay.
absolutely try this notion of, if you have a problem, you go and you get 100,000 signatures and the whole country votes on it. If you have a solution, you go get 100,000 signatures and the whole country will vote on. There's some
But we have
sort
that,
of threshold.
but Kyle, we have that in California, and what unfortunately happens is the people who want a certain proposition to go through completely mislead the public on what is in those propositions so they can push them through. And whoever spends the most money tends to win. And so the corrosive effect of money is just, again, rearing its ugly head. And to me, that almost more than anything is what I worry about. The effect of the relationship, and this is what Bobby Kennedy talks about, the relationship between corporations and regulators, the relationship between representatives and who's funding their campaigns. I mean, this is a corrosive effect. If we could get rid of that, our system such as it is might work better.
And Howard Schultz, he entertained running for president in the last cycle. And one of the things that really stuck with me from one of his talks, and he was the CEO of Starbucks, for anybody who doesn't know, was he gave the example that 90% of Americans could agree with a certain policy, but if the Republicans put it forward, it has like a 30% chance of passing. And if the Democrats put it forward, it has a 30% chance of passing. So it's the nature of this duality oppositional force.
Well, that's another thing. Maybe the party system is not, or at least we get the independent in, like Bobby. Like let's not get into these yin yang conflicts that are so ridiculous.
And and the other concept that was really interesting is the concept of citizen assemblies too. Bringing together. It's almost like jury duty on policy. Bringing of the collective, bring in 50 to 100 randomly selected citizens or people of different backgrounds, bringing them together to be educated on particular policy areas by all different sides, and then coming out with recommendations in that informed approach. And that proves to be a very effective means towards policy recommendations, as opposed to the current construct of policy recommendations, which is heavily influenced by the private industry for their their motives, which at the end of the day are profits, because that's what corporations seek to achieve and deliver to their shareholders.
And why do you think it works in Switzerland? Because the Greeks have had injunctions against direct democracies with more than like 1,000 people or something that they always collapse. I don't know what the number is, but through history, direct democracies have always collapsed as they get big. Why do you think it works for the Swiss? And by the way, when I first heard how well it works there and how happy they are with it, I thought, wow, it's a homogeneous society. And it is compared to America, but it's three different countries. It's Italians, Germans, and French essentially getting along. So it's not really that homogeneous. Why does it work?
Well, and Switzerland, it's a country of 8 million people divided amongst 26 cantons, and the canton is the equivalent of the state. And the cantons hold the most power. Like it is really a local first governance model, all the way up to the federal level, where the head of state there it rotates every year. So, and also, like, within the system, there isn't a desire for people to become politicians. Like, the career politician is not something that the Swiss seek to do. It's not like
that's an interesting.
Not like America.
It's because they must not be making much money as a politician, which is what I'd love to know how they clean that up. But
well, and they have a lot of very interesting things in Switzerland too. They have fines that are based on income. If you're caught passing on the right, it's a percentage of your income. The speed limit is the speed limit. So it's like, if the speed limit is 100 kilometers an hour, it's 100 kilometers an hour, because that's the speed limit. Yeah. I learned that lesson the hard way. I was actually offered.
I did too.
To spend
I learned
3
that.
days in jail.
I learned that in France. I learned that in France because they had, not only was that the case, but they had video detection. I got more than one ticket. So it's crazy. But let's go back to the fear. I want to dig into the fear thing again, the fear campaign, and how egregious this was. And the mass formation. I just wanted to pick your brain a little bit about because I have my own thoughts about the mass formation and why it occurred and why we were set up for it. And we've sort of tilted at discussing why these people use these techniques, to sort of control us and keep us down, as you said. But why were we prone to it? What do you think? Mass formation.
I feel like it's like Plato's cave. It's like the more you push something on people, they're just going to, it's easier to fool a person than it's to convince they've been fooled. So, and from a controlling point of view, fear is a very effective tool to wield. And, to an individual, really aim to recognize when somebody's using fear to coerce you into doing some sort of action. That should be an immediate warning signal that something is amiss. And they've been using fear as a tool for control. The sun, be afraid. Like, the earth, be afraid. Weather, be afraid. Food, be afraid. Human contact, connection, be afraid. Like, during the whole COVID, they seeing another, being within 6 feet of another person, be afraid. Travel on an airplane, be afraid. Cross a border, be afraid. Speak up, be afraid.
I listen, people, one of the things people forget about is the Fauci and his team were saying at one point that you will never shake someone's hand ever again, and you better get used to not socializing with humans. And I was like, you got to be kidding. What? Humans have to have this contact. We must. It's in us. It's a meaning-making piece of what the human experience is. Yeah. So I'm angry at that still. And they use the mass formation. They used the mass formation. They used it. We were prone to it for some reason. And everyone to whom I'm sure, if you're like me, raised that issue to, they will fight against it. And then you sort of point out to them what happened in Germany in 1938. And their assumption always is, well, I wouldn't fall for that. I'd be one of the good guys. I wouldn't have let them round up. I would have been putting Anne Frank up in the basement, up in the attic rather. But the reality is, no, you wouldn't have. You've just proven it. First of all, you've just shown who you are by liking this extreme control or cowing to it. Either way, you're not one of the. You would not be one of the good guys.
COVID was the return of the Nazis.
Well, it's certainly the return of that phenomenology.
This is the return
right?
of the Nazi. This is the nouveau Nazi. The neo-Nazi, if you will. And, they project so bloody hard that everybody else is the Nazi or the fascists. They are projecting. Our democracy is at stake when, in the case of the DNC, this nouveau Nazi party, they do not want anybody to be on the ballot other than their commander and puppet, Mr. Man. They want one option. That is democracy. This is very, very dangerous.
Yes, I agree with you, and I think you are onto something with the nouveau Nazi. Did that term just get invented this second, or have you already been using that?
You just made it up right now.
Okay, nouveau Nazi, I love it. So just those of you that don't know, nouveau is a French word for new. So it's the nouveau Nazis, and I like it. It has a nice ring to it. I'm going to use it, if you'll permit me. Let's use it together. So nouveau Nazis, but yeah, the projection is obvious. Who was it the other day just said they've never met someone, a leadership that hates democracy more than the Democratic leadership right now. And they don't even understand. And so this is back to mass formation. They don't seem to understand that's what they're doing. That they are attacking populism. I don't know if you saw the work of Winston Marshall, who went to at bat in. He's one of the founders of Mumford & Son, and he was. I'm trying to pull up his words while we're talking here. He went to bat against Nancy Pelosi in Great Britain. I believe that's where it happened in any event. And I'm going to read you what he said about populism, which I thought was so accurate. Here he is.
Populism. It's the worst.
Here it is. But here's what he's saying. I'll tell you what is a threat to democracy. It's Brussels, DC, Westminster, mainstream media, big tech, big pharma, corporate collusion, and Davos. The threat to democracy comes from those who write off ordinary people as deplorable. The threat to democracy comes from those who smear working people as racist. The threat to democracy comes from those who write off working people as, quote, populists. And there it is. I understand that populism has a history and its various things. But the fact is, you're just taking aim at people's opinion and their desire to exert their opinion at the voting box on representative government. Now, I understand you don't like who the Republicans are running. I understand that. I get that. But to condemn the people who are trying to, I by the way, saw this in Canada. You said there was a big vote 2 days ago. I was there during the run-up to the vote, and that's the kind of rhetoric that was underway. And then you see the same thing in France, where the mainstream media will go, oh, it's the far right, it's the extreme right. I'm not sure. I think it's people that are just tired of the nouveau Nazis. Yes.
Yeah. And we just want to talk about things. It's like, let's just make talking great again, where we can actually have an honest discussion.
You got to talk to Bobby about your slogans. You've got good slogans in you. You've got good slogans. Let's make talking. Oh, yeah. Let's make talking cool again. All right. In the remaining minutes, give me your pitch for Bobby Kennedy, and then we're going to kind of wrap this thing up. I appreciate you being here today very much and taking your time away from your family and the bus. Why should somebody vote for Bobby Kennedy?
Well, I was down at the pier the other day and I heard the lads, and the lads were talking, and they were saying, do you hear about the new man in town? I said, no, I didn't hear about the man. What are you saying about the man? They're saying that he's the remedy. And guess what his name is? I said, what's his name? They're saying it's Kennedy. Can you believe it? There's a man named Kennedy that they're calling the remedy. And I said to myself, goodness gracious, let me look this up. So I Googled, whoisbobbykennedy.com. And I watched this movie. And you know who narrated the movie? It was Woody Harrelson. And it talked all about how the mainstream media is painting this man as some sort of crazy, crazy man. But when it comes down to the fact, the man knows an awful lot about the world. He's lived it. He's been a lawyer for 40 years, fighting corporate capture, corporate greed, environmental destruction, all sorts of things. He knows about the crisis of addiction in America. He knows about the problems that are up and down this country, from the left to the right, from San Francisco all the way to Provincetown, Cape Cod. He knows America, and he knows what we can do. And he also knows the world too. And he knows how to deal with other leaders and how to talk about what needs to be done. So that's why they're calling this man the remedy. And a lot of people are saying, well, he has got no chance because, he didn't go as a as a Democrat. Well, the Democrats weren't going to have him. And then he goes as a Republican. Well, the Republicans weren't going to have him either. So he chose to go independent. It was the only way to go. And there hasn't been an independent president since George Washington. It's time for number 2. Let's make Bobby the Remedy Kennedy number 2 this November 5th. And before that, let's go out. Let's mark the message, because Bobby the Remedy Kennedy is getting on every single ballot. And honestly, contrast him to the other guys. Listen to his words. Don't judge him based on the words of others. Judge him based on his own words. Look into his eyes. Listen to him with your ears. You make the decision. You are a person. You got a heart that's beating. You got a mind that's thinking. Think for yourself. Hear for yourself. Don't trust the television. It's a television. And it's the programs that are telling you a vision. Don't trust the television. Trust your own mind. Trust your own ears. And use your words with great care. Just like Bobby the Remedy Kennedy. So this November 5th, give him a good chance. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You just give him a chance. That's, for goodness sakes, for our children, for our ancestors, for our future. Bobby.
Bobby the Remedy Kennedy, Kyle Kemper, everybody. A couple things, 2 quick things before we wrap it all up. I'd urge you, I know slogans are your thing, but I'd urge you to call him the second rather than number 2. I don't know if the Canadian translation of number 2 is the same as number 2 is here. Number 2 is not a good connotation in this country.
Number 2? What do you mean number 2?
Number 1 is pee-pee. Number 1 is pee-pee. Number 2 is number 2. So just saying, this is a translation issue. You called him number 2. We're going to call him the second independent candidate since George Washington.
Oh, yeah. Well, since George Washington. Yeah.
The second.
Okay,
and then the other thing
is, you not see that performance, Drew? Holy shit! Let me hear your
I didn't want to
accent.
take a number 2.
That's the only takeaway he had.
All over your rant.
That's the only
but I just
takeaway
did.
he heard. Okay, guys, can you please cut that whole thing and just eliminate, in the post, because that was a really good. Give me your speech.
It was a good
No,
one.
it was
Believe
awesome.
me, it will go around social. Caleb will be sure to push it out. Don't you worry. And then I love that Woody Harrelson is slowly becoming an uber rationalist. I love that he is becoming that guy. It's so interesting that people have dismissed him as a. Yeah.
And before we end, because before we end, I just want to say too that tomorrow we have the CNN fake debate happening in the Fortress of Evil, and it's important that on this day, Bobby is going to be doing his own take on it. So he's going to have a voice as well. It's therealdebate.com is the site that they have set up. And I also want to encourage everybody, all supporters, anybody who believes in independence and independent candidates, to consider making a donation to Bobby tomorrow. Tomorrow is the fake debate money bomb. And if the supporters can all just chip in a little bit from a lot of people makes a huge difference. So whatever you can do, if you've been waiting for that moment, tomorrow is the day. Fake debate money bomb, chip in. Listen, I know there's something very special planned for tomorrow night. And, let's listen to your... I think the debate's at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And it sounds like they're
Bobby's
going
doing
to
his
be...
thing?
Bobby's going to be... I believe what is going to be happening is Bobby's going to be, watching the debate, and then they're going to use their old PVR, and they're going to press pause. And then we're going to... I think they'll have their own moderator who's going to be super awesome. Asking the same question or following on in some form. And Bobby will respond, and then they'll press play. And so it's like an alter debate there. We're going to weave him in because, CNN, the Matrix news network, will not allow for Bobby's voice to be heard, especially in contrast, to those other 2 candidates. When I think I heard 71% of Americans want to hear him debate. People deserve to at least have the option to listen to him debate. And these Democrats, these nouveau Nazis, they do the big Democrats. They're not the Democrats of the JFK, of the RFK. These are the ones they like big government. They like big pharmacy. They like big war. They like big power. They like big money. They do not want people to have good choices. They want their choices. They want people to rise into the higher levels of their own organization, but not too high, just high enough where you're easily controlled. Thank you very much. Dr.
Kyle Kemper,
Drew.
right, follow him on X. You find him there, KYLE.
I like him.
KEMPER. We really appreciate you being here and hope to meet you in person and shake your hand.
I can't wait. Where are you guys at?
We're in Southern California. We move around. We'll be up in New York. We'll stay in touch. I'll get
Are
you
you going
info.
to be at the
and
Trump
we'll figure it out.
sentencing?
No, I doubt it. That's in Florida, right?
That's in New York on the 11th, on July 11th. It should be a real circus. Then we've got the Republican National Convention is the next event. That's going to be on the 15th to the 18th. That should be a good time. I invite you to come to Bitcoin Nashville, July 25th to 27th. How savvy are you with Bitcoin? You have a wallet?
I'm unsavvy, but I'm familiar.
Well, we can do another show specifically about that. And to all your people out there,
Fair
check
enough.
out Edge Wallet. It's a great wallet. The best way to understand Bitcoin is to actually send and receive it. You can't study. It's like email. You can't study email. Once you send and receive an email, you're like, okay, I get email. Same thing with Bitcoin. Same thing with crypto. It's cash, but it's digital and it can't be censored. So it's awesome. It is an alternative too.
And Bobby's been talking a little bit about it too. He's been sort of nodding towards it a bit too, which is interesting.
He spoke about it a year ago
influence.
and was like all about it. And now, in the last month, Trump has since declared that he is the crypto candidate. So Bobby's definitely having, an effect on the other guys. And I think, tomorrow night we might even see a question about Bitcoin, in the CNN fake debate. Hashtag fake debate, folks.
And
before that, you got to check out my show, Calling Out with Susan Pinsky.
I'll give a big promo.
And
for
I'd
that.
love to have Kyle on so we can talk to his guardian angel one day.
Oh, so Susan, if you see a promoter right there, Susan has a show with. Well, just tell your show coming out tomorrow at 3:00.
Tomorrow at 3 p.m., Calling Out with Susan Pinsky is making its return debut on at 3 p.m. And we use psychic mediums, astrologists, numerologists, people who are spiritual to connect with the afterlife and find closure, love, and light.
There you go. Kyle, I will see you soon, and we will...
so we'll be calling you, Kyle.
Susan will get in touch with you. Look at you.
I dig him.
All right, my friend. Take care. Drive safe. Be happy.
Namaste.
He hates the drive safe. What does he like? Drive with adventure. What was he like?
I dig this guy. He's awesome.
So.
Oh my God, so cute. Ugh.
All right. So,
So anyways, I'm going to reiterate it just because I haven't really advertised it yet because I'm very nervous about it. And we have a new producer. And before I do that, I want to thank Emily Barsh for her content production for all of our shows and also for keeping me sane and also working on our sponsors.
That's interesting.
But yeah, tomorrow, 3 p.m. Tune in, follow me on Rumble or Twitter or on Twitter. I'm First Lady of Love. I'm also on youtube.com/callingout, or it'll also be on Dr. Drew's YouTube and Facebook. And if you go to locals.com, I think it's callingout.com/locals. You can be on the show. We're going to have a locals community there and try to get people who are interested in being on the show that are in our community. So I'm going to post it right now.
That's
so
actually,
you can follow the link.
I believe it's callingout.locals.com, but they can find that at callingoutshow.com.
Oh, calling.
Right.
Okay.
And for this
show, the website, I'm going to just post them all.
We will be in early tomorrow at noon with Salty Cracker. And he's been stirring it up lately. Next Tuesday, July 2nd, we have Dr. Andrew Huffin here. He's an eco-health whistleblower. He'll be in studio. Then we're going to take the 4th of July weekend away and be back on Tuesday with Brad Skistmas. And then Wednesday, Dave Rubin in studio. There we are. And Michael, am I getting this right? Yes, there we are. That's what's coming up. Michael Fairclough, I hope you guys them right. He is a UK teacher who opposed mandates. He's actually not just a teacher. I think he was a headmaster and has some interesting ideas about child rearing and what we should be doing. And Zach Voorhees is on the schedule. I see that as well. And Batya Ungar Sargon coming on July 16th. So we'll be...
Look, I have a star next to my name.
Yeah, there you go. It's a new support Susan. Let her.
And it's so funny because I started talking about it on the Rumble chat. I was like, "Oh yeah, my show tomorrow. If anybody wants to join," and then the lights went out. So our spirits We're already working
People
on
love
it.
that show, so she's bringing it back. So do support Susan, and then again, support the people that support us. We can keep doing these things. We're very, very, very fortunate that we love the people that we work with. So
I gotta get my hair done.
Okay, go do your thing. Caleb, anything on your front?
Nope, all good. That was an interesting one. That was great. Excited
Yeah,
for
it was
tomorrow. We have
interesting.
two shows
You know,
and we have two shows and then a presidential debate tomorrow. So tomorrow is packed. I've already warned my wife. I'm like, it's gonna be crazy tomorrow. I will kiss the kids in the morning and I'll kiss them before bed. They may not see me during the day. 'Cause I don't know who planned to debut a show tomorrow before the presidential debate on the same day we have Salty Cracker.
I know.
That's okay. We want his people to know because they might be interested.
Also, I'm reading Aaron Kheriaty's latest disquisition on the Supreme Court decision, which did not go his way. It looks like they're going to keep going at it because let me quote what he says here. Supreme Court punts on technicalities, so they're going to try to address those technicalities.
Oh, Dave Smith is on July 23rd.
Dave Smith on July 23rd. That's going to be a lot of fun. It's good to have Dave back. Yeah, who knew Dave was going to be so much in the heat of things. All right, everybody, thank you so much for being here. We'll see you tomorrow at noon for this show with Salty Cracker. You'll want to be there. Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help.